Hello everyone and welcome to one more tutorial here on Salmonella Place. And today we're going to discuss another joint, the acromioclavicular joint. This is good knowledge to add to the previous tutorial that we did on the shoulder girdle. Now the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to isolate the entire skeleton so I can show you the bones that are involved in the acromioclavicular joint. And by now you probably know that it is the clavicle and the scapula. The name says it all. Now, we're going to look at the right acromioclavicular joint, but the same thing is happening on the left side. And the articulating surfaces, or this joint, is happening right here. So I would like to highlight this for you. And the joint is happening between the acromial end of the clavicle and the acromion process of the scapula. Now I would like to say a few words on the capsule and the disc and the synovial membrane, because this joint is a synovial joint, and for that reason you're going to have a capsule that covers the joint. So there is a capsule covering or surrounding the joint and is attached to the margins of the articulating surfaces. If we were to dissect this capsule, we would find out that there is a disc between the bones, the articulating surfaces, and this disc is projected from the capsule superiorly. Now, as you know, and as I mentioned already, this is a synovial joint, and for that reason it's going to have a synovial membrane. And the synovial membrane lines the capsule. So I'm going to try to draw the blue. It's going to be the capsule. Okay, so this is the capsule. The red is the synovial membrane lining the capsule. I'm going to write here down for you as well. So this is the synovial membrane, and then the disc. And it's important to know that the synovial membrane is also attached. You can see that it's attached to the articulating surfaces involved in this joint. So I would like to give you a quick word on the ligaments involved in the acromioclavicular joint. There is a main ligament that is divided into two, the acromioclavicular ligament, and it's divided into the superior acromioclavicular ligament and, of course, the inferior acromioclavicular ligament. And also, there is another ligament that is important to mention. It's an accessory ligament, and I already mentioned on the shoulder girdle tutorial, it's the coracoclavicular ligament, which happens between the coracoid process of the scapula and the inferior part of the clavicle. And this coracoclavicular ligament is divided into two as well, into the trapezoid ligament laterally. So the trapezoid ligament that occurs laterally, and the conoid ligament, which happens medially. So this is an accessory ligament to the acromioclavicular joint. Now it is time for us to briefly discuss the movements associated to the acromioclavicular joint. It's important to know that this is a gliding joint, and there are three movements that we need to know on this tutorial, and all these movements that we're going to discuss are associated or happen to this bone here, the scapula. So the first one is what you see on this arrow here. This is known as protraction and retraction of the scapula. This is when the acromion here will glide horizontally across the tip of the clavicle right here. Now, the movement happens around the thoracic wall. This is what happens when you punch someone. And I do not suggest that you do so, but you know that this is what's happening to your scapula when you decide to take that bad action. Now, the next movement that we need to discuss is the rotation of the scapula, and it's happening in this manner right here, happening in a antero-posterior axis, very important to know. And this happens when you elevate your arm above your shoulder. Now, the final movement that we need to go over is elevation and depression. And it's important to notice that there is a minimal elevation and depression in the acromioclavicular joint.